In this video, I spent 100 days in the Terraria Undeluxe edition. This means playing the old version of Terraria from 2012. I didn't realize just how much difference there would be between modern Terraria and this version. Anyways, enjoy this 100-day journey through Terraria Undeluxe edition. I started off day 1 by chopping down some trees. Eventually I started exploring the left side of the world, where I stumbled upon this cave which had a chest in it. Within the chest I found a demonic wooden boomerang. I continued on exploring until I found a second chest which contained my first accessory, which was the aglet. I placed down the workbench in order to be able to create a wooden hammer as well as a heavy wooden sword. I then found another chest which contained a spear and some other useful items. Eventually I found a dungeon where I met the old man. I wasn't quite ready to explore the dungeon yet, so I made my way home. However, I made a stop on this hill in order to be able to see if I could spot any floating islands. I didn't see any, and I quickly gave up in order to make a return before nighttime. I got a bit sidetracked and headed down this cave. On my way down I found some topaz as well as some iron. Eventually, after mining a bit, I found my first life crystal. After killing the skeletons, I saw that there were actually 2 life crystals instead of just 1. I had pretty decent luck and found a couple of extra life crystals as well. I then found my first golden chest, however it didn't really contain anything useful. The cave exploration ended when I was slowly suffocated to death. When I got back to the surface, it was daytime and I started working on the base. I placed down all the essentials like the workbench, the anvil, the furnace and a couple of chests. I put some walls up in order to keep the zombies out during nighttime. With the new furnace I created, I could now melt all the ores I gathered in the cave. And with these ores I created my first piece of armor. I also upgraded my weapon to an iron broadsword. The following day I continued working on the base in order to make room for the NPCs. I also went ahead and made a sawmill and a loom. After working on the base for a bit, I headed down to the cave underneath my base and found my second golden chest, which contained a band of regeneration. I then saw another life crystal, however, when I got back I crafted some silk in order to make a bed. I then went ahead and made the master bedroom, which was now my spawn point. The rest of day 4 was pretty much just spent working on the base. As nighttime arrived, I got the message that the blood moon was rising. This meant more zombies, which I really didn't want to deal with, so instead I chose to head down to the caves. I also made this copper watch in order to tell the time. Down in the caves I found a couple of more life crystals, which was nice. I went a bit too far down and all of a sudden I reached hell, which I was definitely not ready for. Even though I lost all my gold coins, I had still managed to gather some ores. I used these ores to upgrade my tools as well as make a new piece of armor. I also got the message that the demolitionist had now arrived, which meant I could buy some dynamites. I went ahead and explored some of the right side of the world when I eventually stumbled upon the corruption biome. I managed to make my way down the caves where I found some more life crystals. I made my way out from the caves and continued to explore to the right side when I eventually stumbled upon the jungle biome. Further on I found another corruption biome which eventually killed me. At this point the base was pretty ugly, so I continued to work a bit on it. I went ahead and made a couple more rooms for the NPCs, as well as moved the crafting area so I can rearrange the chests. I went ahead and spoke to the merchant in order to sell the topaz I had gathered since I had so much, in order to buy a piggy bank. I headed down to the caves where I killed the skeleton and he dropped a hook, which I could use in order to craft a grappling hook. Right afterwards I killed another skeleton and got another hook, which I didn't need. I then found a golden chest, which was really good because it gave me the cloud in the bottle as well as the Eye of Cthulhu summoning item. The cloud in the bottle was really good because it now meant that I could double jump. I managed to find a couple of more life crystals before eventually reaching hell once again. I slipped on some silt blocks and fell down. On the bright side, I could now make a grappling hook. I also went ahead and crafted a gold bow, however it got the worst enchantment, so it was really trash. I then made this tunnel from the master bedroom through the side of the mountain. From this little tunnel I could now make a little boss arena in order to be able to fight Eye of Cthulhu. So on the night of day 8 I drank my potions and summoned the very first boss. And just like that, I had defeated the very first boss, the Eye of Cthulhu, which was pretty easy. I could now craft demonite bars from the ores that I got from the fight. This meant that I could now craft a new weapon called the War Axe of the Night. I also went ahead and crafted a gold hammer because the wooden hammer was just way too slow. I then headed over to the corruption to break one of these balls. Breaking this one gave me a musket, which came in really handy because I could replace it with the terrible golden bow that I had. Returning home, I did some more work on the base, like putting in a couple of windows. I then got the message that the arms dealer had just moved in. This meant that I could now buy the mini shark as long as I saved up enough money. During the nighttime, I got a message that a meteorite had landed. The next day I went exploring for the meteorite and I did manage to find it on the left side of the world. I was curious to see if I could just bring some explosives to try and blow it up, and luckily for me it worked. However, I did have a lot of problems with the meteor heads attacking me whilst trying to mine. Also, the Dryad NPC had now arrived, which was nice, I guess. I headed back to the meteorite with even more explosives. I also went exploring a little bit in the dungeon and I found the water bolt. I didn't want to go all the way back, so I just decided to see how far I could go down before. With all the meteorite I blew up, I could now make myself some meteor leggings. I finished off day 10 by working a bit more on the base. Day 11 came around and I figured it was now time to start working on my elevator. I also found another life crystal on the way down. I made my way down to hell, and after managing to kill these monsters, I took this hellforge with me. Not long after, I died to this huge skeleton worm. I pimped up my house with this new hellforge I found. I also headed back and blew up even more of this meteorite. Once again I crafted some more meteorite bars, and with these bars I could craft a meteor suit. At the end of day 12 I figured it was now time to go explore the jungle. I found this golden chest which gave me a new accessory called the Anklet of the Wind. I continued exploring and finally I found a magic mirror. And right beside it I found another magic mirror. Thankfully, I found another accessory as well called the Feral Claws. I found this huge abandoned building where I found another magic mirror, but thankfully just above it was the Hermes boots. During this trip in the jungle, I also found the very last life crystal I needed before getting 400 HP. When I got back home, I created a mana crystal out of 10 fallen stars. I also went ahead and created the blade of grass from the materials I had gathered in the jungle. I crafted a jungle hat as well, which was an upgrade from my silver helm. Since I had gotten the summoning item for Eye of Cthulhu, I summoned him once again just to get some more demonite bars as well as some gold coins. The very next day I created a jungle shirt as well as an upgraded grappling hook called the Ivy Whip. And finally, after a final trip to the jungle, I could now make the jungle pants. I then needed to expand a little because I needed an area to grow flowers for my potions. Afterwards, I just did some more work on the base. I then drank a gravitation potion in order to be able to fly around and try and find some floating islands. After a little bit I found one, however I needed a golden key to open the chest. I then found 2 floating islands right beside each other. I then noticed that these floating islands were directly above the spot where I had previously tried to climb. At the end of day 16 I continued working on the base. It was now time to start thinking about killing the very next boss, which was the Eater of Worlds. While drinking my potions I accidentally exploded myself with a bomb. But anyways, it was now time to summon the Eater of Worlds. And without much trouble, the Eater of Worlds was now defeated. I returned back home and crafted some demonite bars. With the shadow scales and the demonite bars I could now craft a new pickaxe as well as a new hammer. I also went ahead and crafted the first piece of the shadow armor. I returned to the corruption biome once again to summon a boss, and I got the message that another meteorite had landed. And right after destroying another ball, I got the message that another meteorite had landed. And here I just went ahead and summoned the boss once again. I changed my strategy this time to just face tank the whole boss. And as you can see, this strategy worked perfectly. And once again I returned back home, crafted more bars, and made a new piece of shadow armor. I also went ahead and upgraded my bow to this demon bow. While it was daytime, I headed over to the dungeon to make a little arena. While I was waiting for nighttime, I built another NPC room. As nighttime appeared, I summoned the Eye of Cthulhu a couple of times in order to farm some Demonite bars. I could now craft a ton of Demonite bars. This meant I could also make the final piece of the shadow armor. I spoke with the arms dealer because I had now gotten enough gold to buy the mini shark. This of course was a huge upgrade. On day 20, I got the message that the goblin army was approaching from the east. Thankfully, I had just finished off my shadow armor, so I was very prepared for this fight. After a little bit of fighting, I had now defeated the army. This meant that the goblin tinkerer would spawn somewhere down in the caves, so I went exploring for him. It didn't take very long before I eventually found him sitting between two lava pools. Rescuing him meant that I could now buy the Tinkerer's Workshop, which I then could use in order to combine accessories. And of course I also bought the Rocket Boots, which I could combine with my Hermes boots in order to create the Spectre boots. This meant that I was now able to fly. After obtaining my new boots, I now felt confident enough to speak with the old man and summon the next boss. And just like that, Skeletron was defeated. This meant that I had now access to the dungeon. I also spotted one of the meteorites that had landed, so I went ahead and blew some of it up. I went ahead and crafted the meteor helmet just in order to place on the mannequin. I did some more work on one of the new NPC rooms. I then got the message that Harold, the new NPC, had arrived. Before exploring the dungeon, I wanted to be more prepared, so I headed down to the caves in order to get some obsidian. I used this obsidian in order to craft some obsidian skin potions. These potions are very helpful as it means I won't die when I touch lava. Since I needed a ton of hellstone bars, I just went on a grind in order to get loads of it. Returning back home on day 22, I crafted all the hellstone bars that I could. I could also now upgrade my sword to the fiery greatsword. With this new upgrade, I headed down to the dungeon. I found this golden chest, however I needed a golden key to open it. I got a key and opened one of the chests where I found a handgun. The second chest I opened didn't really have anything that useful. While exploring the dungeon, all of a sudden I came across the mechanic. brought one of the golden keys over to a floating island and found a Star Fury. The next day I returned to the dungeon and found a cobalt shield. I opened another golden chest and found a Muramasa. When I came back home, I figured it was now time to expand the base a little bit. I needed even more Demonite bars, so I summoned the Eye of Cthulhu once again. From these bars I created the Demonite sword called the Light's Bane. I could now combine the 4 swords, which is the Light's Bane, the Muramasa, the Blade of Grass and the Fiery Greatsword, to craft the Night's Edge. It was now time to start upgrading my tools and armor even further, so I needed more Hellstone. Firstly, I crafted the Molten Pickaxe. I could then craft 2 pieces of armor, which was the chestplate and the helmet. I then went ahead and placed my previous armor sets on the mannequins. I returned down to Hell to get even more Hellstone. And finally, I had enough Hellstone bars to craft the last piece of the Molten Armor. I also had some extra bars, so I went ahead and crafted the Molten Hammocks. I also went back to the dungeon in order to find the Shadow Key. With the Shadow Key, I could now open the Shadow Chests that could be found in Hell. However, I didn't really find anything too interesting in these chests. I returned back home and started clearing out this big room. I didn't know it at the time, but I started to work on this little bridge, which eventually would turn out to be a really big project. I really liked the aesthetics of it, so I cleared out the big piece of the mountain and continued the design. I also started to work on this underwater tunnel underneath my pond. I wanted to use more building blocks, so I created this thing underneath my base. I also started clearing everything in front of the base. I think I just went a bit crazy for a period and just blew up the rest of the mountain. I removed the entire greenhouse room and expanded upon the bridge design. However, I built another greenhouse just on the lower level. I wanted a room dedicated to mannequins, so I started to work on that. I also went ahead and crafted a necro armor set just to fill a space on the mannequin. I went ahead and crafted a obsidian skull in order to combine it with the cobalt shield to make the obsidian shield. At this point it was now time to start thinking about killing the wall of flesh, so I started building a platform. I thought I was ready, so I went ahead and threw the guide voodoo doll into the lava. However, I didn't have any plan and strategy, and my platform was too short, so yeah. I expanded the platform a bit, and once again I summoned the wall of flesh. And just before dying, I managed to kill him. This meant that the world was now in hard mode. I returned to the loot and got the clockwork assault rifle as well as the pwn hammer. Returning back home, I was shocked to see that the corruption biome had almost spread all the way to the base. I started digging this tunnel to stop the corruption biome from spreading all the way into my base. Also, with the pwn hammer I had gotten from the wall of flesh, I could now destroy demon altars. Destroying these meant that there spawned new ore in the world, like the cobalt, the mithril and the adamantite. I headed over to the corruption biome to destroy even more altars. I managed to destroy some altars, however I was quickly ganged up on by all these wraiths. I used the spelunker potion and I could see all of these new ores that had spawned in my world. However, at this point I could only mine the cobalt ore. I made a bunch of cobalt bars, which I could use in order to craft new armor and new tools. I had gotten enough bars to craft a whole set of cobalt armor as well as a new drill. Getting this new cobalt drill meant that I could now mine mithril. I also got the message that the goblin army was approaching. However, I didn't have time to fight any army because I had to mine mithril. There were also a bunch of new enemies down in the caves. This is also when I spotted the new NPC called the Wizard. At this point I could now forge some mithril bars. And with the bars I could create a mithril anvil. On this anvil I could now craft myself a full set of mithril armor.
What the hell?
I had to go to the mines once again to find some more mithril in order to craft a new drill. I also had enough leftover bars to craft a new sword as well as a new chainsaw. As I went exploring to the left side of the world, I stumbled upon this new biome that had spawned called the Hallowed biome. I headed down in the caves underneath this new biome and found a bunch of new items and monsters. I then found this mimic, which I managed to kill after shooting him a bunch, and he dropped a new accessory called the Star Cloak. This item was good because it meant that if I took damage, stars would come crashing down from the sky and hurt the enemies. I also made some cobalt bars and a cobalt sword because I would need it in the future. Anyways, with my new drill I could now head down to the caves in order to mine some adamantite ore. Eventually I met some giant bats which I just couldn't handle. With the adamantite ore I had gotten, I could combine it with the hell forge in order to craft a adamantite forge. I needed this new forge in order to be able to make adamantite bars. However, I didn't have enough bars to craft anything, so I needed to head back into the caves in order to get some more ores. When I returned, I had enough bars to craft a new drill as well as a new piece of armor. With the new bars I created, I made myself a new adamantite sword. I also went ahead and crafted a adamantite mask, as that gave me ranged bonuses. So I headed down to mine even more adamantite ore. So finally, when I returned back home, I had enough bars to craft the last piece of the adamantite armor. I also just went ahead and destroyed the goblin army, as they were just annoying me. It was also now time to make some serious preparations for the new bosses. I also needed more potions in preparation for the fight, so I had to do some gardening. At this point I found out that the gap that I made between the corruption and my base was not wide enough. I just continued doing some more work on the base. At this point I had finally collected enough fallen stars to be able to make the last mana star. And before battling the mechanical bosses, it was time to get some wings. This meant that I had to get some souls of flight, which only dropped from the wyvern. I managed to kill him, but because he didn't drop enough souls, I had to kill him a couple more times. At that point I had enough souls of flight, but I needed more souls of light. And these souls only dropped from monsters in the underground hallowed biome. It did take some time to gather all of the souls I needed. At one point I figured maybe I should try and make a mob farm. So that's exactly what I tried to do. I gathered some lava. And then I went ahead and cleared out the little area. Eventually I got enough souls of light to be able to make the angel wings. This was a huge addition to my accessories because it now meant that I could fly. On the following days I did even more work on the base. I also made this little tower on the edge of the corruption biome. All of a sudden I heard an explosion and just saw that my underwater tunnel exploded. At first I was super confused, but as it turns out it was this clown that could throw bombs to make things explode. Bro, he just kept on exploding my tunnel. I then went ahead and crafted the mechanical worm, which is the summoning item for the next boss. In preparation for the fight I also made this new type of ammo, which is the cursed ammo. All of a sudden I spotted this mother... On day 48 I crafted 2 golden crowns, one for myself of course, and one for the summoning item for King Slime. I summoned King Slime, and at this point, of course, the fight wasn't really that challenging. And with that, I had defeated King Slime. However, when nighttime appeared, I summoned the Destroyer. He managed to kill every single NPC that I had in my home, and eventually he killed me. I figured I needed another weapon for the fight, so I crafted myself an adamantite repeater. I wanted to use holy arrows for the boss fight, which meant that I had to get a lot of unicorn horns. Therefore I tried to set up this mob farm as well on the hallowed biome. And bro, this must be the most annoying mob in the Undeluxe edition. It was now day 50 and I still continued to work on the farm, but frankly it really wasn't that great. I also made this giant platform in the sky where I planted hallowed seeds in order to have a flat biome. When I was down in the caves, I killed this mimic which dropped a new hook called the dual hook. When nighttime appeared, I summoned the Destroyer once again. During the fight, I ran out of holy arrows. This meant that I didn't have enough DPS in order to kill the boss, and eventually it turned to daytime and the boss just went away. During the daytime I decorated some more. I also needed to head down in the caves in order to farm some more Souls of Night. At this point I also crafted the summoning item for the twins, which is another mechanical boss. And all of a sudden this guy appeared once again. Day 56 was just spent farming unicorn horns in order to get more holy arrows. And on the night of day 57 I summoned the Destroyer once again. And with just 12 HP left, I managed to kill the Destroyer. Killing this boss gave me a bunch of Souls of Might. The next day I noticed that none of my NPCs were respawning. This was due to the fact that the corruption biome had now spread all the way to the base, making every NPC rooms corrupted. Therefore I made this contemporary little snow village for all the NPCs to move into. And not long after, the NPCs started returning back home. Now I had enough Souls of Might to combine with the swords I had crafted in order to craft the Excalibur. Once the Dryad NPC had returned, I could now buy some purification powder. With this powder I could now turn the surrounding area around my base back to normal, at least for a little while. I then made bigger measures to ensure that the corruption did not spread all the way to the base once again. This resulted with me just digging a huge hole in the ground. At this point I had mined so much, so I just continued doing it. And in the end I had cleared up this entire area of the base. I went and spoke with the wizard and ended up buying this crystal ball. I'd also gotten enough silk to craft this tuxedo shirt. And when nighttime arrived I tried to summon the twins. However, I didn't really stand a chance. During daytime, I farmed some more unicorn horns. I also bought this bell from the wizard. I also tried to make a floating mushroom biome, however it seemed that in the Undeluxe version this was impossible. I farmed some more Souls of Night. I needed some Souls of Might, so I went ahead and summoned the Destroyer once again. Once again he killed all of my NPCs, but I did however manage to kill them fairly easily. Now I wanted to craft a Mega Shark weapon, so I needed 5 shark fins.
Hey everyone!
I went ahead and spoke to the arms dealer during nighttime because then he sold me the illegal gun parts. So by combining the mini shark, the illegal gun parts, the Souls of Might and the shark fins, I could now craft the Mega Shark. I went down in the caves in order to farm some more souls for the summoning items. I also killed the Mimic, which dropped the Titan gloves. With my new Mega Shark I was now ready to summon the twins once again. And as you can see, I didn't really have much trouble fighting the twins this time. I used the souls that I got to craft the true endgame item, which was the fairy bell. On day 69 I made the next summoning item, which was the mechanical skull. I made some more preparations before the boss fight, like making more potions. I also spent all of my gold coins in order to reforge my Mega Shark. And as it became nighttime, I summoned the very final boss, Skeletron Prime. So, on day 69, the very final boss Skeletron Prime was defeated. The very first thing I did was to craft the first piece of the hallowed armor set. Since I needed to kill the mechanical bosses some more, I needed to farm some more unicorn horns. I also tried to experiment a bit with some dart traps, as I had never tried it before. When it finally became nighttime, I summoned the twins once again. And once again, this was a very easy fight. Because I wanted to make the ranged version of the Hallowed helmet, I needed to make the Mithril helmet as well as the Cobalt ranged helmet in order to combine them. I needed some more Souls of Might, so I summoned the Destroyer once again. I then combined all of the chest pieces in order to make the Hallowed plate mail. This meant that I now had the complete Hallowed armor set. I also needed to make the Adamantite chainsaw as well as the Cobalt chainsaw in order to make the very final drill, which was the Hamdrax. The Hamdrax itself was really good as it worked as a hammer, a pickaxe and an axe at the same time. I also headed over to the Hallowed mob farm as I just wanted to make it more efficient. As I didn't really want to be standing around pulling this lever, I headed home and crafted this 3-second timer that could activate the dart traps. Since I had so many days left of the 100 days challenge, I needed to keep myself busy by starting on a new big project. First off, I just made this little house around a demon altar located right beneath my base. I also found out I had another golden key just laying around, so I went and opened this golden chest and found a lucky horseshoe. I also opened another chest and found a balloon. With the balloon I can combine it with the cloud in a bottle to make the cloud in a balloon, however I didn't really use the item. I went ahead and drained all of the water surrounding the underwater tunnel, and instead I replaced all of the water with lava. And as you can see, this did take some time. I crafted this fish tank helmet. Since I kinda liked the temporary NPC housings that I made, I went ahead and expanded it. I tried to make sure that the Hallowed biome couldn't expand all the way to my base, so I tried to make this big hole. Also went ahead and exploded a lot of dirt underneath my base. I continued on the project and closed off this massive room. I then used dynamite in order to remove most of the walls. I then continued the pillar design that I had from the upper level down to the lower level. At this point, of course, I also needed a golden throne. I cleared out all of the walls on the right side as well. I also continued the pillar design over to the right side. I also expanded the greenhouse a little bit and made this little shed. I also crafted a depth meter, which I could combine with my stopwatch in order to craft a GPS. At this point I wanted to do another project, so I started to work on this massive mob farm. Again, I utilized some of the dart traps and the wires. I mostly wanted to get gold coins from this farm, as buying dynamites was really expensive. And there you have it, 100 days in Terraria Undeluxe edition. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and remember to subscribe so you won't miss out on future 100 day videos.